I'm watching the debate again. You know, when I'm at the watch party, I am analyzing the debate because I'm looking for tidbits and I'm thinking, oh, Sanders could say this or he could say that, and that guy's a prick, etc. And I got the opportunity as I'm like looking at the debate again. There's a fascinating dynamic that I don't think I've ever seen take place in any other debate where two people are on a debating stage defending a philosophy of sorts. CNN, again, is never going to get into the fine differences between Sanders and Warren. So from an objective viewer, it just looks like both of these guys are defending the same thing. And for all intents and purposes, in general contours, they were. It's a fascinating thing. Sanders did damn good in this debate. And I'm saying this, you know, I'm looking at the public polling on this from CNN. I'm looking at mainstream media's viewpoint of this. Sanders was the number 2 person looked up at the end of this debate. You know who number 1? Marianne Williamson. Interesting. Beyond that point, Sanders and Warren talked more than anyone else in the debate. Good. That's also good. And it also means that Sanders, with a full-throated Medicare for All, with the help of Elizabeth Warren, because Elizabeth Warren has tied her fate to Medicare for All also, were able to defend the position without losing ground on the position. And not just that, maybe even have gained ground. Sanders and Warren defend Medicare for All. Full-throated, spirited defense of Medicare for All. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you enjoy this content, please consider liking this content, sharing this content, and of course, you can always support through PayPal or Patreon. We like to say even $1 helps. YouTube is an untrustworthy actor in this. They demonetize these videos willy-nilly. So the debate. I'm rewatching the debate. And as I'm rewatching elements of the debate, it's fascinating. Like, it's just weird. I've never seen a debate where 2 people in the debate go into a foxhole and defend a point of view against the corporate class in the Democratic Party. And that is literally what took place. I mean, for all intents and purposes, you're talking about 2 people who are arguing literally for single-payer health care. And the corporate class, who for the last God knows how long has been against this, fighting tooth and nail to stop them from pushing this policy. Arguing essentially Republican talking points that we can't do big things. Like, this was an extraordinary debate in this regard. And I have to be honest, I wasn't necessarily looking forward to this debate because I thought, God, this is going to be somewhat bland. And then the closer we got to it, and when I realized, oh, wait, this is not going to be bland. These guys are going to be hitting Sanders. It's going to give him opportunities to hit back. And then my assumption was right, that Sanders and Warren would work in tandem within the context of the debate, but in no stretch of my imagination that I think they were going to work this closely in tandem. What they were literally, attacks on Sanders was answered by Warren in some respects, and Warren is trying to get into this fight on Medicare for All stuff. And her, in some respects, having some of the best ribbing, because Sanders' point of view is more so straightforward, like, this is the policy I'm trying to do. And he's really strong on that point. And she hitting Delaney. Why are you in this race? Why do you go through the trouble of running for a Democrat only to tell people what they can't do? That is one of the best lines. I love that line. That line is essentially, why are you here? If you're not going to add to this process in regards to us trying to do big things, get the fuck out the room. She didn't say it that way, but for all intents and purposes. I'm going to try to show this. I'm hoping CNN would allow me to show this. And I'm going to have to show this kind of within double screen, meaning both screens are going to be together. And I'm going to see if I can get away with that. But we will see. Let's see. This video is freezing a lot, and I'm hoping the freezing thing just had to do with the loading or the buffering. Look, I know a lot of you are not fans of Warren, and I myself am not a huge fan of Warren. I like her domestic policies. In fact, love her domestic policies. To the degree that I believe she could get those domestic policies done. Like, she's a squishy actor. Like, people say all sorts of things. The issue is not what they say. The issue is what they can possibly do. When they get up in the morning, what do they believe in? What are they going to try to push for? And in Sanders, he's been pushing this for 40 years. Consistency is his strong suit. That is not the same thing with Warren. By the same token, her, in this debate, she did well. And they made a damn good team in dealing with this issue. Both of them hit different notes and how they were battling back on people pushing back. And I got to be honest, Sanders did damn well in this. Meaning, his defense of this was extraordinary because there were certain things that I wish he would have said. So don't misunderstand me. But he eventually gets around to those things the second and third time that they come back to him. So it's like, it starts off a particular way and I'm like, damn it, he should have said so and so and so. And then he comes back and he says that. And then he says something else. And he's making a certain argument that is extraordinarily well and that has a certain emotional resonance associated with it. Warren gets involved. And she adds her own point of view to it. And she adds a more detailed note dealing with insurance and the problems with having insurance. Meaning she adds a different layer to what Sanders were saying. And they were arguing the exact same point in somewhat slightly different ways, adding a really good resonance in the way they were making their case. Meaning, the people who were mainstream media-wise looking at this, it came off, it seemed well. It seemed well. And I have to call it a defense of Medicare for All because of the way CNN asks the question. CNN asks the question in a skeptical way. CNN could have asked this question. Let me explain what I mean by framing. Jake Tapper, with his perfect face, could have looked into the camera and say, Delaney, you've criticized Bernie Sanders' plan, but Medicare for All would provide coverage for every American, and their amount of money that they would have to put out of pocket goes down, not to mention the amount that they have to pay at point of sale goes away and prescription drugs prices go down. Isn't this right? I mean, what is wrong with this? Not to mention, isn't it kind of like a tax, a medical bill, that you're somewhat getting rid of and getting rid of the medical bills? Why are you against making sure each American can have health care? You can ask the question in that way. I guess my point is, he asked the question in the most critical way possible. So the name of this video has to be a defense of Medicare for All. Just kind of the framing.
Unprecedented grassroots movement to not only defeat Trump, but to transform our economy and our government.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Let's start the debate with the number one issue for Democratic voters, health care. And Senator Sanders, let's start with you. You support Medicare for All, which would eventually take private health insurance away from more than 150 million Americans in exchange for...
Right there. You're going to take it away. You're going to rip it out of their hands. Is that really the framing that you need to use for that, Tapper? Giving this image of ripping something out of Americans, something that they have that they are losing. This is a framing issue. This is kind of my point. And he continuously says it over and over and over and over again. You're going to take it away. You're going to take it away. You're going to take it away. You're not taking away anything. The issue is people having the ability to get to the doctor that they want to get to. That's the issue. Period. So if you're framing it as if you're taking it away from somebody, you're not. Yes, you may be technically right in the sense of taking away their health insurance, but the issue is not the health insurance. The issue is whether or not they can get to their doctor. And providing Medicare for All is stability in regards to health care. There's a difference in those things. In one sense, it's this for-profit industry that leeches off of individuals. In Bernie Sanders' plan, everybody is covered. It's not a leeching process. It's not a for-profit industry at that point. You can frame it in a different way. This is the worst sort of framing in the way that Tapper is doing it, and he's doing it on purpose. CNN is not an impartial actor.
For government-sponsored health care for everyone. Congressman Delaney just referred to it as bad policy, and previously he has called the idea political suicide. that will just get President Trump reelected. What do you say to Congressman Delaney?
You're wrong. Right now, we have a dysfunctional healthcare system, 87 million uninsured or underinsured, $500,000 Americans every year going bankrupt because of medical bills, 30,000 people dying while the healthcare industry makes tens of billions of dollars in profit. 5 minutes away from here, John, is a country. It's called Canada. They guarantee healthcare to every man, woman, and child as a human right. They spend half of what we spend. And by the way, when you end up in a hospital in Canada, you come out with no bill at all. Healthcare is a human right, not a privilege. I believe that. I will fight for that.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Congressman Delaney?
Well, I'm right about this. We can create a universal healthcare system to give everyone basic healthcare for free, and I have a proposal to do it. But we don't have to go around and be the party of subtraction and telling half the country who has private health insurance that their health insurance is illegal. My dad, the union electrician, loved the health care he got from the IBEW. He would never want someone to take that away. Half of Medicare benefits.
Just so we're clear, Jake Tapper set the framing of taking away health care. Delaney pals on that framing and saying you're trying to take away health care from people. Understand what we're saying. Medicare for All is literally ensuring that each and every person in this country has health care, comprehensive health care, high quality health care. And their argument is that somehow people are losing something in this process, as if they just love to death their insurance companies. This is utter nonsense. I love the argument that de Blasio made, to be honest. You know, if the federal government comes along and says, look, we only have 10 million kids that are in school, and we need more people to be in school, so we are going to ensure that there are public school systems and that everybody can go to school. And Delaney will come out and say, you're trying to rip school away from our kids. You're trying to stop our kids the ability to learn. And it's like, what are you talking about? We're ensuring that everybody can go to school. In this case, everybody gets comprehensive, high-quality health care. That's what we're talking about. I literally have to change my insurance every year. And Delaney is somehow making this argument that I am entirely hurt by this process. I was okay in that process. This is talking about not having to continuously do that. And if I lose my job, if I get fired, for whatever reason, I still have high quality healthcare. Delaney is talking about something else, but their language is kind of the point I'm trying to get at. Their language is deceptive.
Beneficiaries now have Medicare Advantage, which is private insurance, or supplemental plans. It's also bad policy. It'll underfund the...
By the way, that's because Medicare doesn't cover everything. If Medicare covered everything, those other plans wouldn't be necessary. That's more of a deficiency in the Medicare program. But guess what? Medicare is not created by God. Medicare is created by Congress. And as such, it can be changed and tweaked and altered and amended to expand to include the other things that it's deficient in. Just saying.
The industry, many hospitals will close, and it's bad policy.
Senator Sanders,
My name was also mentioned in this.
We're going to come to you in 1 second, but let me go to Senator Sanders right now. Senator Sanders?
The fact of the matter is, tens of millions of people lose their health insurance every single year when they change jobs, when their employer changes that insurance. If you want stability in the healthcare system, if you want a system which gives you freedom of choice with regard to doctor or hospital, which is a system which will not bankrupt you, the answer is to get rid of the profiteering of the drug companies and the insurance companies, move to Medicare for all.
But now he's talking about a different issue. What I'm talking about is really simple. We should deal with the tragedy of the uninsured and give everyone health care as a right. But why do we got to be the party of taking something away from people?
No one is the party.
That's what they're running on. They're running on telling half the country that your health insurance is illegal. It says it.
He's making a Republican argument. And just so we're clear, Delaney's own campaign team, I can't get over this. His own campaign team is trying to tell him to drop out the race. He spent $19 million of his own money. $19 million of his own money to get on this debate stage to tell the American public, you can't have nice things. You can't have nice things. I've become rich, and now I'm going to have so much cash, so much money to waste, that I can throw that money fucking away just to tell you that you can't have nice things. That you can't come together as a society and change policy, mind you, to extend something that already exists and that is supported by like 80% of the public. That you can't do anything to that. That's impossible. That is an impossibility. And you shouldn't even try. This guy, $19 million of his own money. Do you know where he's at the polls? Point bumfuck something percent. And yet he's on a debate stage telling you can't have nice things. That's extraordinary. Eat the rich. If he has money to throw away like this, eat the rich. That money could go towards making sure somebody has a house over their head or food in their belly, but instead he's throwing it away to tell you that the rest of the public can't get covered for health care for who the fuck knows why. It's extraordinary. You can't have nice things. And then is making a right-wing argument to pursue this. If the Republican Party made this argument, then nobody will be shocked by that because it's the Republican Party. But this is a corporate Democrat. A corporate Democrat. That's extraordinary. Not shocking, just extraordinary. There's a difference.
Right in the bill.
All right, thank
we
you.
don't have to do that. We can give everyone health care and allow people to have choice. That's the American.
The issue is not health care. And fact of the matter is, people don't entirely have choice. Do you think my wife has the choice of which doctor to go to? It depends on the rates that they charge. There's some doctors that charge more than others. There was one doctor that wouldn't even take her. People don't have choice in this. In fact, health insurance is not choice. Do you realize there are many people who just don't go to the doctor because they don't necessarily want to get the bill? The bill in and of itself become a deterrent from those people to actually getting health care. And the longer those people stop and don't get health care, when they finally do, it's worse off. Health care or insurance is not the point. And if you want the ability to go to the doctor that you want and you want stability in the market, Medicare for all is what you want. He's fighting for the insurance companies. That's who he is. A fighter for the insurance companies, Delaney. The guy who spent $19 million of his own money to get to point bumfuck in the polls to tell you that Medicare for all is impossible. We can't do big things.
American way.
Look,
Thank you, Congressman. Senator Warren.
so look, let's be clear about this. We are the Democrats. We are not about trying to take away health care from anyone. That's what the Republicans are trying to do. And we should stop using Republican talking points in order to talk with each other about how to best provide that health care. Now, I want to have a chance to tell the story about my friend, Addie Barkin. Addie is 35 years old. He has a wife, Rachel. He has a cute little boy named Carl. He also has ALS, and it's killing him. Addie has health insurance, good health insurance, and it's not nearly enough.
Right there. It's not just health insurance. Like, having health insurance is not the end all be all. You barely make ends meet. Let's say you work 2 jobs in order to make ends meet. There are plenty of people out here who work 2 jobs, who work a regular job and then do Uber on the side in order to just balance their debts. And there were a time where I had to take Uber to work because my car was damaged, so I got the opportunity to talk to the Uber drivers. Many of them did other jobs, but this was their kind of gig job. Assume that person for the moment gets ill. what happens to that person? Does this person have insurance? They may have insurance on the other job. But if they get ill to the point where they can't do the secondary job, they're already suppressed from the standpoint of wages. Their wages was already under pressure. Half of the country is barely making ends meet, with a section of that, a good section of that, in poverty. If any of them get sick to something to a degree where they have to go to the doctor over and over and over again, do you honestly believe that the insurance that they have is adequate when they're going to get hit with copay after copay after copay? Every time you get ill, she's talking to someone with ALS. What if it's not ALS? Say it's kidney failure, for example. Say it's diabetes, for example. Say it's something that requires surgery. Say it's something that they don't know what it is, and it requires you one doctor visit after the next, after the next, after the next, to try to find somebody who figures out what this is, in which case they're doing testing, in which case you're getting hit with bills for every test that they do. It's not enough. Delaney, who's so out of touch that he spends $19 million to run a campaign that he could have literally used that money for something good, doesn't get that because he's out of touch. The reality of it is, just because you have health insurance doesn't necessarily mean you are covered comprehensively from the standpoint of your healthcare needs. Drop out, Delaney. Drop out.
I'm coming right. I'm staying with you. But you exceeded your time, and so let me just stay with you on Medicare for all.
All right.
At the last debate, you said you're, quote, with Bernie on Medicare for all. Now, Senator Sanders has said that people in the middle class will pay more in taxes to help pay for Medicare for all, though that will be offset by the elimination of insurance premiums and other costs. Are you also, quote, with Bernie on Medicare for all when it comes to raising taxes on middle class Americans to pay for it?
Giant corporations and billionaires.
Again, that's framing, right? I mean, the raising taxes on middle-class Americans. I mean, it is also a tax when I have to go to the doctor in order to pay for something. If I have to go to my doctor, when I get my payments, my doctor, because of the policies that these guys have been enacting, no longer allows you to get pain meds from the standpoint of just a prescription that he calls in. You have to actually go into the doctor. So now every time I go to the doctor, just to get a prescription, I have to pay $25. That's a tax. When you have to go to take your kid to the doctor, that's a tax. Every time you have to go, when they take a chunk out of you. And my insurance is not horrible, and yet that bill hurts because that bill takes place over and over and over and over again. And God forbid I get ill. God forbid my wife gets ill. Even with insurance. Why don't we consider those taxes? Why don't we consider those taxes? Because that's essentially what they are. His argument is get rid of all that. Pay that stuff on the back end in a way where you can have a progressive tax that the top pays more. They've benefited magnificently off of this company. They should pay more. They've used your labor and you bought their products, meaning they need you on both ends of this equation, and yet they've been able to benefit magnificently. Why shouldn't they pay back? They've been able to use our society. My point is this: if there's a social contract, there should be a social contract. And this argument of he's increasing taxes on the middle class, he's increasing taxes progressively where the upper echelon is paying a hell of a lot more, meaning you, for your healthcare needs, pay less. I hope you understand what I'm saying. This notion of, oh, he's increasing taxes misses the point that the amount that you pay per year is going down. It's going down. You're paying a tax every time you go to the doctor. Why don't we just pay it on the back end?
Are going to pay more. Middle class families are going to pay less out of pocket for their health care. And I'd like to finish talking about Addie, the guy who has ALS. This isn't funny. This is somebody who has health insurance and is dying. And every month, he has about $9,000 in medical bills that his insurance company won't cover. His wife, Rachel, is on the phone for hours and hours and hours begging the insurance company, please cover what the doctors say he.
And by the way, keep in mind, the model of the insurance company is to deny coverage. That's her point in this story. That They have to fight tooth and nail to get the stuff that the doctor is trying to prescribe. But because the model of the insurance company is to deny coverage, because if they have to pay for that meds, that's less money on their balance sheet, meaning they have every incentive in the world to deny him those things. Her point in this is this really the company? Is this really the relationship we want to have from the standpoint of healthcare? Our healthcare system is dysfunctional, and if I'm being honest, grossly immoral.
He needs. He talks about what it's like to go online with thousands of other people to beg friends, family, and strangers for money so he can cover his medical expenses. The basic profit model of an insurance company is taking as much money as you can in premiums and pay out as little as possible in health care coverage. That is not working for Americans across this country.
Thank you, Senator.
Medicare for All will fix that, and that's why I'll fight for it.
Thank you, Senator. Just a point of clarification in 15 extra seconds. Would you raise taxes on the middle class to pay for Medicare for All, offset obviously by the elimination of insurance premiums? Yes or no?
Costs will go up for billionaires and go up for corporations. For middle class families, total costs will go down.
Well said. Well said. God, man, it is mind-blowing. Yes, I'm intervening again. I'm sorry. There are a lot of you out there who disagree with me in my support for Sanders. I've said from the beginning, that's the horse that I'm riding. And I say that because I think I have somewhat of a clear eye on this, that I think a bit of bitterness is blinding some of you. And yes, I know I'm saying that, and it's going to be like, hey, dude, fuck you, man. Yeah, but let me make my point. On a debate stage, the second and third contender are arguing full-throated. You know, look, chains off the wheels. In the breeze. Medicare for all. Single-payer healthcare system in America. Now, in 2008, Obama ditched the public option almost immediately. You could not get any person to even touch it. A few, but not really anybody to touch it, and not in any real way. And the president, for the most part, left Congress to work out the details. Medicare for all was seen as an impossibility at that point. A radical impossibility that could never take place. Nobody would ever even pick up. I can't believe you even mention it. How dare you even say it? You could barely even get somebody to mention the term public option. Even though a public option would have dramatically dropped prices if Obama would have implemented the public option when he got into office. Sanders happens. Clinton loses. And the argument that you get is an interregnum, where what is leadership in the Democratic Party, even though you have the old guard that's still there, is in contention. They lose 1,300 seats across the United States, and all notion of legitimacy goes right along with it. They lose the presidency to a reality show host. They lose the Congress. They lose the Supreme Court. They lose it all. And they didn't have to lose the Supreme Court. Obama was just weak on getting his guy through because they thought Clinton was going to win. And then Sanders happens. And the argument that Sanders made in 2016 resonates beyond the election. Whereas Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton can't even fill up a phone booth for whatever that thing they're trying to do, jumping around the globe, Sanders kept going at that notion of the policies that he was pushing. And he's been running for office for like 4 years. And you get to this election cycle, and he's firmly in the number 2 spot. He's not in the prime position, that's fair. He's in the number 2 spot. And the key topic in this particular debate was Medicare for all. And despite having a skeptical CNN, despite the framing of it being weird and off and the least favorable light, you had Sanders and Warren on that stage giving a full-throated defense of a policy that 8 years ago was radioactive. Your world has changed. Now, whether that can push through or not is unknown. And what I mean by push through, oftentimes when things fuck up, when they hit the skids, it takes a while for that energy to kind of propagate itself through the society. It usually ends up being some kind of movement or something in a historical context that has a certain weight, that weight sometimes has enough resonance that pushes through to some kind of change. Think of New Deal politics. Think of the wars. Think of what happened during the war years. I guess I'm saying, hell, and don't just look in American history. I'm talking about looking in, like Spanish Civil War, for example, or even German history. I mean, you can see where there's certain movements that push through based on problems that happen within the context of the country itself that allow those movements to propagate. And it doesn't always happen overnight, but it seems like those things do have a certain resonance. The second and the third person in this current debate is on national television yelling at the height of their lungs about a policy that 6 years ago was radioactive. I'm sorry, that's a different world. You can hit Sanders all you want. But be honest. I'm not saying that the Democratic Party has changed. I'm not even saying that the establishment within the party has changed. I'm not even saying if Sanders was elected today that he could push through everything that he wanted. The president doesn't have that power. I'm saying that there is a groundswell that seems to be shaking and moving in a particular direction. And right now, Joe Biden is literally running on electability. If electability fades, Joe Biden will shrivel up almost immediately. He would collapse. It is a house of cards. If he can sustain the electability argument, then the Medicare for all and everything else will be buried down, meaning the old guard will be able to knock down the new guard and what they want to get across. But I'm just trying to point to the fact that the new guard is trying to some degree to take power. And in this case, the argument and the conversation that has taken place is based around the arguments of the new guard. It's not a perfect process. The people involved are not perfect people. They're just human beings. I'm just kind of pointing to this interesting tidbit in moment in time where we're in, where that seems to be taking place in real time. It is impossible to know whether Sanders can push through with this. But if he can't push through with this notion of Medicare for all and everything else curls up for another 40 years. We'll see. I mean, it's fucking fascinating politics.
Governor Bullock, I want to bring you in. You do not support Medicare for all. How do you respond to Senator Warren?
No, healthcare is so personal to all of us. Never forget when my 12-year-old son had a heart attack within 24 hours of his life.
Just so we're clear, he's telling us this argument for why everybody in the public shouldn't have the same access to healthcare that his kid has access to. And he's using a sick kid in order to make this argument against Medicare for all. Just want to be clear that what we're talking about.
Had to be life flighted to Salt Lake City. But because we had good insurance, he's here with me tonight. At the end of the day, I'm not going to support any plan that rips away quality health care from individuals.
Nobody's losing health care. Nobody's losing health care. Nobody's mentioned that. Nobody talked about that. Nobody's losing health care. Even under the worst case scenario, Medicare for all takes a 4-year implementation cycle, in which case people are added on year by year by year. But at no point in that transition period does anybody lose access to health care. I have no idea what this new guy, who my wife said looks extraordinarily sleazy, is talking about. He's lying. He's lying. That's the look of a liar. Steve Bullock, Montana, liar. That's who he is. Keep going.
This is an example of wish list economics. It used to be just Republicans wanted to repeal and replace. Now many Democrats do as well. We can get there with a public option, negotiating drug prices, ending.
Thank you, Governor Bullock. I want to bring in Mayor Buttigieg on the topic of whether or not the middle class should pay higher taxes in exchange for guaranteed health care and the elimination of insurance premiums. How do you respond, Mayor?
So we don't have to stand up here speculating about whether the public option will be better than, or a Medicare for all environment will be better than the corporate options. We can put it to the test. That's the concept of my Medicare for All Who Want It proposal. That way, if people like me are right, that the public alternative is going to be
Medicare for all who want it. Knock me over with a fucking feather. Medicare for all who want it. You have Medicare for some, Medicare for all who want it now under Buttigieg. Why are you calling it Medicare for anything? Call it something else. You lose me. If you have a healthcare plan, have a healthcare plan and defend that healthcare plan. Don't call it Medicare for anything. Kamala Harris calling her plan Medicare for all is Orwellian. And now you have Medicare for some. All right, Buttigieg, tell us your Medicare for
not only more comprehensive, but more affordable than any of the corporate options around there. We'll see Americans walk away from the corporate options into that Medicare option, and it will become Medicare for all without us having to kick anybody off their insurance.
Just 15 seconds on the clarification. You are willing to raise taxes on middle-class Americans in order to have universal coverage with the disappearance of insurance premiums, yes or no?
I think you can buy into it. That's the idea of Medicare for all who want it. Look, this is a distinction without a difference, whether you're paying the same.
No, Buttigieg, there's a difference. There's a difference. I mean, it sounds like, I could be wrong because it's late. It's like, it's 1:30 in the morning. So I could be wrong. Perhaps I'm missing something in this. But what it sounds like you just said is that you have a Medicare for some plan, in which case people can buy into it. Oh, Medicare for whoever wants it or whatever it's called. But people can buy into the plan, and eventually enough people will buy into the plan where the corporate option would just kind of shrivel up and fade away on its own. Do you honestly believe that? I mean, what you're going to have is that all of the sick people are going to get dumped into the Medicare for some plan, and that plan is going to collapse. That's what you're going to have. Medicare for some? Are you serious? If you believe that people are going to walk away from the corporate option because the Medicare plan is going to be better and comprehensive, then why keep the corporate plans? What's the point? People change their insurance all the time. People lose their jobs, and when they lose their jobs, they also lose their insurance. The insurance companies or the companies that you work with often try to seek cheaper insurance options. And in trying to seek those cheaper insurance options, change insurance plans. They are acting as if people are in love in this almost weird cosmic sense with their insurance companies, as opposed to wanting to keep their doctors. There's a difference in those things. You're not losing access to health care. What's taking place is that your current insurance gets changed again, like it does almost every year at the job, into something that is there in perpetuity. You would get that golden Medicare card, and it will have comprehensive coverage that will also include glasses and teeth. Top line healthcare insurance, even if you are a bum on the street. Comprehensive healthcare insurance as a human right. The point of healthcare being healthcare, not necessarily for somebody's profit. That's what we're talking about. If you believe that people are going to walk away from the corporate model, then why, dick around? Just get to the end goal. The point in this is to provide high quality healthcare for each and every person in this country. And a bit of a philosophical point on whether or not greed should be built within the context of medical bills. Your insurance company is always going to care more about its profit as opposed to any notion of your healthcare. Your healthcare is secondary in that sense, and not just secondary. Their job, their way they make profit is by denying coverage on various things that is going to cost them too much money. Why do you want a vampiric system such as that when that doesn't have to be within the process? These guys are making tons of cash off of our failings, and it needs to stop. I'm telling you, and I'm saying this from somebody who's been around the world and has had to get medical treatment in the various countries around the world. And what we do here is horrific. We treat people so horrific. Like, It is hard to go to a European country and see what they do in regards to healthcare and then come back to the United States and listen to a debate where people on a democratic stage that's supposed to be on the left are making arguments like these guys. This is nonsense. Are you telling me that America can't put a man on the goddamn moon, but we can't provide health care for the people in this country? Get out of here. Get out of here.
Money in the form of taxes or premiums. Look, in this country, if you have health coverage, if you don't have health coverage, you're paying too much for care. And if you do have health coverage, you're paying too much for care.
I want to bring in Congressman O'Rourke on the topic of whether the middle class should pay higher taxes in exchange for universal coverage and the elimination of insurance premiums. What's your response?
The answer is no. The middle class will not pay more in taxes in order to ensure that every American is guaranteed world-class health care. I think we're being offered a false choice. Some who want to improve.
It's not a false choice, Beto. Are you for Medicare for all or not? And by the way, that's my litmus test. And I encourage it to be everybody's litmus test. I don't care if Satan himself is running in the election across from the other person. My litmus test is whether or not that individual supports Medicare for all and whether or not it's credible support for Medicare for all. Because if I don't believe it, the same rules apply. This notion that it is a false choice is being put out here in order to make it look like all of these guys are talking about the same thing. Clearly, all of them are not talking about the same thing. Medicare for some, Medicare for most, Medicare Advantage, all of these Medicare for something plan in order to make you think that they're talking about the exact same thing as Medicare for all or that the plans are akin to one another. Do not be confused or do not be deluded by this. But let's hear Beto. What is Beto going to tell us?
Improve the Affordable Care Act at the margins. Others who want a Medicare for all program that will force people off of private insurance. I have a better path. Medicare for America. Everyone who's uninsured is enrolled in Medicare tomorrow. Those who are insufficiently insured are enrolled in Medicare.
Just to 15 seconds.
And those who have employer-sponsored insurance.
Jake, this is important. Who's offering a false choice here?
You have some. Governor Bullock, who said that we will improve the Affordable Care Act at the margins with a public option. You have others to my right who are talking about taking away people's choice for the private insurance they have or members of unions. I was listening to.
Think about what he's saying. Do you have choice for your health care insurance? Honestly, think about that question for the moment. Do you choose your health care insurance? Most people get their health insurance through their jobs. Do you honestly believe that any year that I worked with a company that I had choice in the company and the healthcare insurance that I had access to? The company chose, the CEO or the executive or whoever made a choice on the cheapest plan that they can get for their employees. And that's the plan that you got to choose from. You don't have choice in this issue. So I guess my point is, these guys are being somewhat disingenuous in their talking points. These are Republican talking points that they're using to attack Medicare for all. But people don't have choice. They're being comically deluded in this. This belief that people love their insurance companies. Oh, I have this outswelling of love for my insurance company. No, nobody does. They like the doctors. They want access to health care. It's not the insurance company. It's not the insurance company. Let's keep going.
Thank you, Congressman.
In Nevada,
Governor Bullock.
His members
He just said you're offering a false choice, sir.
Congressman, not at all. You know, it took us decades and false starts to get the Affordable Care Act. So let's actually build on it. A public option, allowing anyone to buy in. You know, we pay more for prescription drugs than any place actually in the world. We got nothing to show for it. Negotiate prescription drug prices. Enterprise medical billing. That's the way that we can get there without disrupting the lives of 160 million people
Congressman
that
O'Rourke,
like their
you can respond.
employer-sponsored health insurance.
Disrupting the lives of people? What are you talking about? You're talking about... Let him finish.
Congressman O'Rourke,
Every estimate that I've seen of expanding ACA, even through a public option, still leaves millions of people uninsured and also means that people are not guaranteed the health care that they need. As the example that Senator Warren showed us, our plan ensures that everyone is enrolled.
to fight for it. You do not support Medicare for all. Is Senator Warren correct? Do you just not lack the will to fight for it?
That is incorrect. I just have a better way to do this. And in one of my first debates, Jake, I was called a street fighter from the Iron Range by my opponent. And when she said it, I said, thank you. So this is what I think we need to get done. We need the public option. That's what Barack Obama wanted, and it would bring health care costs down for everyone. And by the way, I just don't buy this. I've heard some of these candidates say that it's somehow not moral not moral to not have that public option. Well, Senator Sanders was actually on a public option bill last year, and that was Bernie, the Medicaid public option bill that Senator Schatz introduced. Clearly, this is the easiest way to move forward quickly, and I want to get things done. People can't wait. I've got my friend Nicole out there whose son was actually died trying to ration his insulin.
Think about what you're saying. Think about what you're saying. You honestly believe that the candidates on the stage are coming up with Medicare options. They're considering Medicare somethings with the catchphrase Medicare for all. None of them are Medicare. But the lift that it's going to take to put any of those plans over, it took you how many years to get Obamacare through? And you left 30 million people uninsured. And the healthcare insurance companies and the drug companies continue to rape the population. Too late. Too late. You had your chance to not rape the population. Too late. The consequence of that is a Medicare for all plan, where you can't rape the population anymore, where you can't take advantage of the population, where you can't be responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people because they can't get access to medication because it's so expensive. That's what takes place. And these people who are defenders of the insurance companies, as if people just love their insurance companies, these people are insane. People love the access to their doctors. That's what matters. Can I see my doctor that I want to see? Yes. When I need health care, can I get it? Yes. Am I going to have to pay a premium when I get to the doctor? No. Am I going to go bankrupt? No. If my mom gets sick, she's covered. If I get sick, you're covered. If the bum on the street gets pneumonia, he's also covered. Yes, it's a more moral society.
And as a restaurant manager, and he died because he didn't have enough money to pay for it.
Senator,
and Bernie and I have worked on pharmaceutical issues together. We can get less
Senator Sanders, I'm going to go to
drugs.
Senator Sanders, then Senator Warren, because you both were mentioned.
The author
Senator
of
Sanders.
the Medicare bill, let me clear up one thing. As people talk about having insurance, there are millions of people who have insurance. They can't go to the doctor, and when they come out of the hospital, they go bankrupt. All right? What I am talking about, and others up here are talking about, is no deductibles and no co-payments. And Jake, your question is a Republican talking point. At the end of the day, and by the way, the healthcare industry will be advertising tonight on this program.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Warren, it's your turn.
Oh, can I complete that, please?
Your time is up,
They
30
will be
seconds.
advertising tonight with that talking point.
Senator Warren.
So we have to think of this in terms of the big frame. What's the problem in Washington? It works great for the wealthy. It works great for those who can hire armies of lobbyists and lawyers. And it keeps working great for the insurance companies and the drug companies. What it's going to take is real courage to fight back against them. These insurance companies do not have a God-given right to make $23 billion in profits and suck it out of our healthcare system.
Thank you, Senator.
They do not have a God-given right to put forms in
of the
place.
bill, it said that it will take everyone off of their insurance.
Thank you, Senator. If we could all just stick to the rules.
I hope you heard what she said. She said they don't have a God-given right to make people fill out all of these forms. Now, her point is, you're not filling out the forms because they need the information. You're filling out the forms so they can find a way of saying, I got you, so they can deny you coverage. I was reading cases where they would say, well, look, you didn't tell us that you had some kind of female issue when you were a child, and so now we're going to deny you coverage for something that happened later on in life. Her point is they're doing this in order to try to deny coverage because their business model requires them to deny coverage, even if they can do it just by a probabilistic amount. We can shave off this amount. That's still affecting their bottom line to the detriment of you. That's her point that Jake Tapper didn't allow her to make.
Of the time, that would be great. Congressman Delaney.
I'm the only one on the stage who actually has experience in the healthcare business, and with all due respect, I don't think my colleagues understand the business. We have the public option, which is great. The public option is great, but it doesn't go far enough. It doesn't go far enough. I'm proposing universal healthcare, where everyone gets healthcare as a basic human right for free, but they have choices. My plan, Better Care, is fully paid for without raising middle-class tax options. So when we think about this debate, there's Medicare for all, which is extreme.
I want to bring in Governor Hickenlooper. Governor Hickenlooper.
You know, here's the thing. I look at all of these guys, and I think Sanders is just being more honest. Are you going to have to raise taxes on the middle class? Yes. No other Democrat tells you that. And I often say Democrats are never honest about their policy positions. Meaning, he's telling you, look, I'm not hiding anything from you. I'm telling you exactly what I'm going to do. This is the plan that I'm trying to advocate. I'm going to win or lose on telling you what I want to do. And he's not hiding. Yes, I'm going to raise taxes on the middle class. However, they're going to pay less overall. And not just pay less overall, the upper class are paying more. Meaning, to some degree, your healthcare is being subsidized by the top 1%. Instead of healthcare being this thing that you are taking as a blunt cost on your own, it's something that becomes a progressive tax instead. So understand what I mean. You go into the hospital under normal circumstances, and anything that happens to you while you're in the hospital and the bills that you have to pay are singularly yours. They're all yours. The society doesn't help you in this regard. You go bankrupt. And not just that, your economic output tends to go down after something major like that happening. Under Sanders' plan, it's not entirely yours. You pay a share of it just like you would pay under normal circumstances. Under normal circumstances, you would pay the brunt of all of it. Under his plan, you're paying somewhat of a tax. That tax would essentially represent your share of the hospital bill. In other cases, however, the top 1% and the top 0.1% pays more. So instead of you getting the full brunt of the bill, the top 1% pays a share. It's a progressive tax as opposed to you paying out of pocket, if that makes sense. You're paying one way or the other, but in this case, you're ultimately paying less. Jake Tapper is asking this purely in the context of raising taxes with a quick jab at the end of, tax raise. You could also ask that question in a way that clarifies that highlights that point, as opposed to highlighting the tax increase. It's framing. A lot of this is framing. Let's keep going. There's more. This one is kind of long.
I'd like to hear what you have to say about Senator Warren's suggestion that those people on the stage who are not in favor of Medicare for all lack the political will to fight for it.
Well, obviously, I disagree with that as much as I respect both of the senators to my right. You know, I think it comes down to that question of Americans being used to being able to make choices, to have the right to make a decision. And I think proposing a public option that allows some form of...
You don't choose your health care. You don't choose your health care. If you're working at a company, your company is choosing your health care for you, and they're choosing that year after year after year after year. That is a disingenuous argument. That's a massively disingenuous argument. I'm sorry. I'm just aggravated by this argument.
Of Medicare, maybe it's a combination of Medicare Advantage and Medicare, but people choose it, and if enough people choose it, it expands, the quality improves, the cost comes down, more people choose it. Eventually, in 15 years, you could get there, but it would be an evolution, not a revolution.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Warren.
You know, we have tried this experiment with the insurance companies. And what they've done is they've sucked billions of dollars out of our healthcare system. And they force people to have to fight to try to get the health care coverage that their doctors and nurses say that they need. Why does every doctor, why does every hospital have to fill out so many complicated forms? It's because it gives insurance companies a chance to say no and to push that cost back on the patients.
Thank you, Senator Warren. I want to bring in
fight.
Marianne Williamson. Ms. Williamson, how do you respond to the criticism from Senator Warren that you're not willing to fight for Medicare for all?
Listen to how he's framing this. I mean, like I said in my other show, CNN is framing these arguments in this kind of food fight thing. Hey, Elizabeth Warren said you don't have to spine the fight. What do you think about that? Hey, Elizabeth Warren said you don't have to spine the fight. What do you think about that? Really? Fox News did a far better debate than CNN. When I say CNN is trash, I want this debate to go down as case in point. This is utterly sad that this is what a debate takes place on CNN looks like. All of the money that you have at your network at your disposal, and this is the best that you can do.
I don't know if Senator Warren said that about me specifically. I admire very much what Senator Warren has said and what Bernie has said. But I have to say, I'm normally way over there with Bernie and Elizabeth on this one. I hear the others, and I have some concern about that as well. And I do have concern about what the Republicans would say, and that's not just a Republican talking point. I do have concern that it will be difficult. I have concern.
You came out and said you were going to beat Trump with the power of love. Pause on that for a moment. You, Marianne Williamson, spiritual guru, said that you were going to beat Donald Trump with the power of love. That's what you said. But when it comes to Medicare for all, I don't know if the Republicans are going to cast this in the best light. Yeah, just saying.
That it will make it harder to win, and I have a concern that it will make it harder to govern. Because if that's our big fight, then the Republicans will so shut us down on everything else.
Mayor Buttigieg,
it is time to stop worrying about what the Republicans will say. Look,
Yes.
if it's true that if we embrace a far left agenda, they're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. If we embrace a conservative agenda, you know what they're going to do? They're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. So let's just stand up for the right policy, go out there and defend it. That's the policy I'm putting forward, not because I think it's the right triangulation between Republicans here and Democrats there, because I think it's the right answer for people like my mother-in-law, who is here, whose life was saved by the ACA, but who is still far too vulnerable to the fact that the insurance industry does not care about her.
Senator Sanders, your response?
Let's be clear what this debate is about. Nobody can defend the dysfunctionality of the current system. What we are taking on is the fact that over the last 20 years, the drug companies and the insurance companies have spent $4.5 billion of your health insurance money on lobbying and campaign contributions. That is why, when I went to Canada the other day, people paid 1/10 the price in Canada for insulin that they're paying in the United States.
I want to bring in Congressman Tim Ryan. Congressman Ryan, your response?
So here we are in Detroit, home of the United Auto Workers. We have all our union friends here tonight. This plan that's being offered by Senator Warren and Senator Sanders will tell those union members who gave away wages in order to get good health care that they're going to lose their health care because Washington's going to come in and tell them they got a better plan. This is the left and right thing. New and better is this. Move Medicare down to 50. Allow people to buy in. Kaiser Permanente said that if those 60 million people do that, they will see a 40% reduction in their health care costs. Let businesses buy in, Jake.
So, Senator, let's talk about that. If Medicare for All is enacted, there are more than 600,000 union members here in Michigan who would be forced to give up their private health care plans. Now, I understand that it would provide universal coverage, but can you guarantee those union members that the benefits under Medicare for All will be as good as the benefits that their representatives, their union reps, fought hard to negotiate?
Well, two things. They will be better because Medicare for All is comprehensive. It covers all health care needs. For senior citizens, it will finally include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses.
But you don't know.
Second of all,
you don't know that,
Second
Bernie.
of all,
We'll come to you in a second,
I do know, and I
Congressman.
wrote the damn bill. And second of all, Second of all, many of our union brothers and sisters
You mad, bro? You mad? Oh, you mad, bro? Yeah, he's mad. He's angry. He doesn't like that. You mad, bro? Oh, you mad? He doesn't like that. Yeah, he doesn't like that. I wrote the damn bill. That's the second time you got dunked on a debate stage. Quit while you're ahead. That's the second time. Tulsi Gabbard was the other time. Let Sanders finish. Sanders, he says, I wrote the damn bill.
There's nobody more pro-union than me up here, are now paying high deductibles and co-payments. And when we do Medicare for all...
Right there. He makes another really good point. Those union members that fought for whatever healthcare plan they have, they're still paying deductibles. They're still paying copays. Those go away. So it's like, yes, they negotiated a plan, but their plan is still ultimately inferior to Medicare for all. And he's up here arguing for the insurance companies that the union members are somehow hurt by this process. This is utterly absurd.
Instead of having the company putting money into healthcare, they can get decent wage increases, which they're not getting today.
Time now.
That's my argument. He's taking my argument. My argument basically boiled down to the argument about the union thing doesn't really make sense, because if you're arguing that, wait, these guys negotiated healthcare within the context of their union membership, okay, fair enough. And that they gave away wages for healthcare, okay, fair enough. But when you take healthcare off the table, doesn't that also mean that their wages will go up? That they no longer have to negotiate wages away for healthcare? That's why the argument never really made sense to me, because it seems like it would be an argument for Medicare for all. That these guys are still paying co-pays, they're still paying deductibles, they're still paying all that stuff. That goes away. And their wages go up because they're no longer negotiating their wages away. I don't understand how this is an argument against Medicare for all, even though that keeps being made. All right. Wow, people are here. Krillin 876. Have you ever seen a more loaded question? Yeah, Krillin, yes. Yes, it's loaded questions. Charles Pierre. Off topic, search FairTube. It's the YouTube union you keep wishing about. They're doing it in Europe right now. I saw this, Charles. Thank you, man. Somebody's pushed a thing on my Twitter account to give me a heads up about it. All right, this video has gone for an hour, and it is like 2 in the morning. So I am going to end this here. Let me make sure there aren't any Streamlabs. Guys, it was an interesting debate, to say the least. And Sanders and Warren kicked ass in this debate, man. Fighting hard for Medicare for all. Because in a real sense, their political livelihood is tethered to Medicare for all. If they can pierce it, and if they can put it down, then their candidacy goes down with it. Fighting for their life. And they're doing a good job doing so. Thanks all. Like, share. You can always support through PayPal or Patreon. Have a good night, everyone.